Okay, so here's a look at your video from down the line. So I'll take you from P1 to P2. Club does a nice job tracing up the plane line, and here when we get to P2 with the shaft parallel to the ground. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this position from the face-on view, but as far as the plane movement, legs look good, shoulders actually look pretty good. I'm liking the line so far from P1 to P2. There's a little bit to work on from the face-on view, but I'll show you that one here in a second. But as we move into P3, I'm going to make some marks here to show you kind of what I'm looking at and what I think you can potentially improve upon. And so if we put you right at 3 here, and we mark it, so I'm going to mark your shaft plane right here. Actually, let me switch that to red. So if we mark your shaft plane, we'll set that there. Again, shoulders look pretty good, hips look good, everything seems to be turning appropriately. And then as we get you up to 4, what you start seeing now is you start seeing the shoulders start to get a little bit flatter, especially in these last few pieces of the backswing. And I think part of what drives that is this area in here, losing a little bit of the pressure point under the right arm. But that's more linked back to P2, and I'll cover that off for you. But if you look at your shoulders compared to your spine, definitely not perpendicular. We're definitely fighting a little bit of the flat shoulder turns here. So when the shoulder turn gets flat, you've now got to figure out how to get back into your inclination, because right now if you made a normal swing and made no adjustments, you'd swing above the ball. And you're not going to let that happen because you have some level of hand-eye coordination like everyone, and you're going to make an adjustment to get the club on the ball. So you've got to either steepen your shoulder turn dramatically, which is really going to throw the plane out and over, or you're going to do exactly what you're going to do here in the next few frames. And as we move you from 4 to 5, I'll get you to right about here, and now all of a sudden here's where your downswing plane is. So we've gone from red to blue from backswing to downswing. So you've gone from pretty much on plane right where you want it to be, and now you've steepened out because of the shoulder plane. And here's something interesting to watch, is that like every person with a flat shoulder turn, if you focus on the front of your cap right there, you know you need to do something to steepen it out to make contact on the ball, because you flatten your shoulder plane and you start to pull your head away from the line and steepen the shaft. So now you've moved off the line a little bit to help you offset this steep shaft. So like every flat shoulder turn, you get flat, you realize you have to steepen out. You're steepening out, you don't like that because you know you're going to too steep, so your head backs out. So it's all sort of a chain reaction. As we take you from 5, I think I get caught in between frames here, 5, this is about 5.5, almost 6. But now you got your hands coming in high. And we know that high hands above the original shaft plane, you're now further off the wall. But now that as you're pulling away, that's going to put the toe of the club in line with the sweet spot, or with the golf ball, I'm sorry. So to offset that, you're now pushing forward with your pelvis as well. So you pull away with your head, and your body's saying, okay, well, I don't want to hit this way out on the toe. You're going to push your pelvis in to offset that. And you do it almost perfectly as we get to impact here. We get to 7. The hips are off the wall almost the exact amount that the head's off the wall. And that means you're probably hitting it pretty close to the center. You may catch it a shade on the heel. Anybody who's a bit of an early extender is going to have the tendency to hit it a little bit on the heel. But again, with high hands, we're going to get lots of club face roll. And as we see through the shot, there's that club face in this position, when in reality we'd like to see it more perpendicular to the plane line. So I should be able to draw a line across the face more looking like this, but instead you've got the face more in this line. So that's what I see in your down the line. I'll pull up your face-on view here. And we'll get you set up. So here is face-on. So we'll put a line here on your left side to see where you start. Here we'll put a line indicating sort of your upper center here. And I'm going to put a little dot, a little circle, sort of. This is where your shoulder turn should end, somewhere about in here. This is where it starts. I'll put one on your head. Alright, here we go. So we'll take you from 1 to 2. This is where I think you're going to see a lot of things get fixed right out of the get-go. So what you'll see here when you get to 2 is that you're starting to get the right arm a little disconnected. Right arm's a little too straight at this point. Let me take that off. Right arm's a little too straight at this point. Where the hands are, I think I'd rather see those hands more in this position with the shaft parallel to the ground. So ideally, like to see your hands about here with the shaft here. And what's happening is that you're getting too much width in the backswing, and that's just throwing you off, and that you can't have good connection with your right arm. And so you end up having just too big and too wide of a backswing at the top. So what I'd work on from 1 to 2 is having more right wrist bend right out of the gate and a little bit more flexion in the right elbow to get started. And then from there, all you got to do is tilt to the top, and you're in good shape. And I'll show you some of that video. But this move in the backswing, if we take you from 2 to 3, really all this looks pretty good. And as far as your shoulders go, it's actually, you're right on track with where you need to be. So if we track the shoulder turn, you're kind of moving it almost perfectly in line with your destination here. You're almost passing right through it. So you're doing a nice job of getting that shoulders from 1 to from almost 1 to 3, and then you stop tilting. And now the shoulder's moving essentially only inwards. It's not continuing down. But I believe that's from what's happening from 1 to 2. So when you look at your end point, which is basically here, maybe a couple more frames, your left shoulder, we've missed the mark. We've gone from, this is where we were hoping to get in the circle here, and we've ended up over here. So we've got, oh, there should be a line. So this is the gap, this blue line. We're off by this much. We need the left shoulder to be down more, it's in too much, and it's too high. So you need a touch more tilt and a little bit more extension. So this has gotten us to P4, and what you'll see here now as we get you from 4 to 5, you do a nice job of retaining the lag. I like what I see there from that standpoint, keeping the accumulators in line as far as that goes. If the left side has slid somewhat, you're getting linear to a degree, but what you're going to see is happening is that you're at this point here, and you really need to get this left hip moving, and it does start to move, but what also happens is your head starts to back up. And so as the head is backing up, keep in mind from the down the line view, you're really steepening the shaft at this point, and as we get just past P6, look at where your head's ended up at P6. We've gone from here to here, head is down and back. As we bring you into 7, you know, decent shaft lean. Obviously you can play a little bit. Good player, you're able to get the shaft in front of the ball, which is great. The hips have gotten a little forward. We'd like to see them more forward. The shoulder has stopped working forward. The shoulder is now up and is above, and it's backwards of where it started, which is never good. That usually means some thin shots and things like that. And then as we continue you from 7 to 8, here's where you really see the issues, is that the head is still back, the head is still low, and now your hips have moved backwards. So now they're back pulling away from where they moved initially, and they're not getting forward and released enough into their forward extension. So the hips still are not forward at all. You can see at this point the hips are where they are. They should be much more this way than they are right now. You really need to get them to move more that way. But a lot of that's set up from the move from 1 to 2, and we can address that. But that's sort of it in a nutshell. If we take out all the lines, one additional change that I'll talk about here is at address. You just overdoing the weight left just a touch. You got your center more or less in front of the ball to start with, just slightly. I'd like to see you get a little more centered with the weight. You got a little too much weight left and a little